Hey everyone, I'm back with another video after I think it's been like 2 weeks. Um, been a little busy, mostly sick actually. I wasn't feeling too well maybe the past week and a half. I had like a pretty mild stomach bug, but I went to the doctors and got some medicine, things like that. But I haven't really posted a lot of pictures on like my Instagram or made any videos or anything like that just because I haven't really been feeling too well. But I'm starting to feel better now, which is good. So I'm going to try to, continue to make new videos. I had so many different ideas while I was sick of different videos to do. But of course I got sick, so then I was just like, I didn't have the energy to make any of them. But yeah, now I'm starting to feel a little better. So yeah, something I actually wanted to talk about maybe a week and a half ago. I actually had a substitute position at an elementary school. So as some of you might know, while working for the company I work for, you might sometimes have to substitute on days where you don't have any scheduled kind of class to teach, or rather school to go to. You have basically what's called a work day, where you might be called in to substitute at a different school. So basically, I was a substitute at one of the elementary schools, and at this particular elementary school, it was a English camp day. What that basically is, it's just a day where you play a lot of cool games with the students. It's a lot of fun, a lot of different activities, things like that. So that event itself was really fun, but I actually got to meet a lot of other ALTs that work in different schools that came from the English camp, for the day kind of thing. But an interesting topic actually kind of came into my head, which was the amount of Japanese that you need to one live in Japan, kind of short term, or living in Japan long term. So it's actually a really interesting, I guess, discussion topic. Some of us were talking about our Japanese level as well as how long we've been in Japan. A lot of the people, the other ALTs that I met that day, have been in Japan for a really long time. Some of them over 20 years. They live, in Japan full time. They have kids. They're married. But yeah, we were talking about like language ability, and a lot of them actually, when asked like, how's your Japanese level, a lot of them were really like, it's really not that good at all or non-existent, which was really surprising to me. Not necessarily everyone that comes to Japan wants to learn Japanese, but on top of that, it kind of brought up the conversation or kind of thought, do you actually need Japanese to live in Japan? Um, the kind of simple answer, at least from my experience so far, no. In all honesty, you need very little Japanese, I think, to live in Japan. Now, on the other hand, if you want to, let's say, live in Japan long term, depending what you want to do, then it kind of changes the question. But the topic is basically, do you think you could live in Japan without Japanese? So again, from my perspective, to live a ALT position job, again, ALT work. So for those of you that might not know or might not remember, I work as an assistant language teacher. So I teach English to senior high school students. So for me, I just teach English. I don't need to use any Japanese. A lot of the times, I'm not really supposed to use Japanese when it comes to just working. With the students, I need to use English. So besides day-to-day activities, like maybe going to a supermarket, putting gas in my car, some basic stuff, I don't really have to use a lot of Japanese. Again, when you go to a supermarket, nowadays, not only can you look things up on like a smartphone, just about everyone has a smartphone, or again, while you're in the supermarket, a lot of the, food, I mean, you can see what a lot of it is, or figure out what it is. So, if you're looking for like some particular food you want to buy, it's fairly easy. You don't necessarily have to know a lot of Japanese or any really, especially if you use a smartphone, to kind of get around. So, from day to day, it's really easy. A lot of different, places have different English services. For example, some of the gas stations I've been to, they have English options. There's a little button says English. Shows you a whole bunch of different menu options, but overall, again, it's in English. You don't really need Japanese to use it. And even if there wasn't an English option, pretty straightforward to figure out what button to push overall. So needless to say, for me, my own personal experience, I haven't had to necessarily use or know a lot of Japanese for day-to-day situations, which again, focusing more on, the bigger question, what do you want to do in Japan? So for some of you watching, you might have an interest in coming to Japan for maybe a vacation, something like that, like a week or two. So, realistically, if you're more in, the parts of Tokyo or something like that, you can get by with some just English. You don't really need a lot of Japanese or very little, to kind of get around, figure things out. And again, having technology has made things so much different from, before when foreigners probably came to Japan and, they didn't really have the technology to just look something up. But when it comes to short term, I think, especially like vacations or things like that, obviously you don't really need a lot of Japanese to get by. But going more towards the other part of kind of the question, if you want to live in Japan long term, what do you want to do? Now, as a few of you might know, when you're in Japan, there's a test you can take. It's called the JLPT. Basically, it's an assessment of your Japanese ability. It ranges from N5, which is kind of the basic, to N1, which is basically makes you Japanese. That's a joke, of course, but basically means you're very proficient in Japanese. Native level Japanese, even more than that, so to speak. But you kind of get the idea. So, for people, foreigners that come to Japan and want to teach English and work as an ALT, you don't need any Japanese experience. Again, I don't use Japanese at my job. A lot of the schools that I actually work with, I'm not supposed to use Japanese, just because it takes away from the using English aspect. But yeah, if you want to kind of just teach, English, as an ALT, you don't really need Japanese. Now, if you want to work for a Japanese company or something else outside of teaching, you're going to need Japanese. So kind of moving, back to how the discussion started, a lot of the, older ALTs in terms of experience all kind of, told me and another ALT who, kind of just started. The one biggest thing they wish they did sooner was study. They kind of wish that they spent a lot more time trying to build up their Japanese. Not to say they don't like teaching, but a lot of opportunities open if you take the time to study Japanese. If you want to do something outside of teaching, or you want to stay in Japan longer term and just have a different career altogether, it really pays to study Japanese because you need to be able to communicate. But it was just kind of overall an interesting topic. Again, I feel that a lot of people that come to Japan, maybe trying to stay long term, kind of know about, the different levels of Japanese and the tests and whatnot. But, in terms of understanding ahead of time how much Japanese you actually need to just live day by day versus if you're trying to get a career in something else outside of teaching. So yeah, it was just kind of like an interesting topic that I wanted to kind of just, I guess go on about. Maybe see other people's opinions on what they thought, especially if, they've been to Japan before or have an interest in going to Japan. But yeah, for me personally, learning Japanese is a lot of fun. I just genuinely enjoy studying the language. It's not to say that at times it's not, a little dry or it can be, a little difficult, of course, but it's definitely something I like to do. So it's kind of more of a self-motivating thing, as well as trying to take the different tests. For me now, I, just personally enjoy teaching, so I don't necessarily know what I want to do in the future, but studying for me, again, is just something I like to do, and I also plan on taking, the different levels of the Japanese test, one of which is coming up in December. Just taking the N5, so, the very basic level, just to kind of get my feet wet and see what it's like, not having taken any standardized Japanese test outside of ones I've taken in America, really. So yeah, so I want to kind of just get my feet wet and see what it's like. So yeah, but again, I kind of just want to know, what your thoughts are on, kind of the subject, or if you have any questions on anything in particular when it comes to, Japanese ability and Japanese language in Japan. But yeah, so hopefully you learned something new. And again, if you have any questions, just let me know. And also, as a side note, again, I will be, taking a few of the different topics that I've thought of and trying to make some more videos, finally post some pictures that I've been meaning to post. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see some of those. I also recently went on a trip, just a small trip, but I got this very adorable dog that I thought I had to share. It's very, very cute. Has a tiny little bell. But yes, he's very, very cute. I really wish I had a dog in Japan. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a dog even if I wanted to, just because of the apartment that I have. But yeah, definitely thought that was really cute. Just had to mention it. But yeah, again, thanks for watching. And hopefully, again, you enjoyed the video and you learned something new, and look forward to some more videos in the future. Thanks.